Hi. As some of you may know, I'm a big fan of photography. My grandfather purchased my first camera for me on my 8th birthday, and I've been taking pictures of all of my adventures ever since. My love for taking pictures accompanies my passion for travel perfectly. It has inspired me to venture as far and wide as possible in search for the perfect shot. But photography may have even more influence on the world as a whole as it has my life. From the early battles of ancient Egypt to the war in Vietnam, humans have never once ceased their interest in visualizing the conflicts going around in the world. But not just conflict between man and man. The ever-growing crisis around the world of endangered animals being poached is being impacted by photographs spread through media. Joran Schmid, a highly acclaimed wildlife photographer and winner of 2018 Photo of the Year by National Geographic, believes that conservation is of utmost importance. When asked about this issue, he said, "Photography plays a huge role in conservation. It surfaces conservation issues that people are not aware of. It makes people empathize with the animals and make them want to take action and do something to help them, like donate money, travel to remote areas, and fight for certain laws." We all know the expression, "a picture says 1,000 words," and when asked about the phrase, Mr. Schmid says that he absolutely agrees with it. He says that it actually guides him when he shares his work on social media. Joran tries to share pictures that will invoke emotions from people and tell a story. Often people comment on his work by telling the story as they see it, or by feeling attached to the characters, wildlife, and scenery in the story. Schmid doesn't only take pictures. He works as a safari guide in both Tanzania and Kenya. On his many travels, he has been scarred and enraged by the increase in animal carcasses left by ruthless poachers. He believes that through photographs a message will be conveyed, one that the poor animals are unable to save for themselves. Help. From 1965 to 1973, the U.S. was involved in a gruesome, ugly war, which for the first time was displayed live in homes across the nation. A Time magazine quote perfectly explains how crucial pictures were in influencing the public's opinion on the war. On television screens and magazine pages around the world, photographs told the story of a fight that only got more confusing, more devastating as it went on. The fraction of a second captured in most photographs is just that, a snapshot of a moment in time. Sometimes, even in war, that moment can tell a whole story with clarity, but it can be ambiguous too. As people sat at home, they were able to get a taste of the atrocity that was the Vietnam War. As John Meacham, a writer from Time, describes in one week's issue of Time, the pictures that from that period can help illuminate the demons of Vietnam. He means by this that the pictures shed light on the horrors of war, resulting in public outrage from figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Muhammad Ali. The decreasing success and morale of our boys overseas could be seen clearly on TV monitors and the morning paper. According to the International Center of Nonviolent Conflict, the U.S. war in Vietnam triggered the most tenacious anti-war movement of U.S. history, beginning with the start of the bombing of North Vietnam in 1964 and the introduction of combat troops the following year. Over the next decade, hundreds of thousands of young people became radicalized in a largely nonviolent, diverse, and sometimes rudimentary popular culture of the war, employing tactics ranging from comical street theater to industrial sabotage. Students, government officials, labor unions, church groups, and middle-class families increasingly opposed the war as it climaxed in 1968, forcing a gradual withdrawal of U.S. forces. Anti-war activities, particularly large-scale resistance to military conscription, forced an end to U.S. combat operations in Vietnam and a suspense of the draft by January 1973. I hope that much like the photography did to the Vietnam War, an impact can be made on the environmental catastrophe that has been relentlessly destroying the world in which we live. Although these situations may be dreary, pictures much easier influence joy. The researchers at USC performed 9 experiments for a study on how taking pictures allowed people to feel happier and be more engaged. In one of these experiments, participants on 2 bus tours to Philadelphia were forbidden from using their phones in any way. On one tour, however, was given cameras and encouraged to take photos. These people claimed to enjoy the experience more and were more engaged. In yet another experiment, participants were taken to a museum and given eye-tracking glasses. They were then instructed to take photos of things that interested them, or not, if they didn't want to. The study found that people who took photographs spent a longer time looking at each exhibit. They also reported being more into the exhibit than the people who didn't take any photos. In short, those who photographed everything were the more attentive bunch. Photography as a whole is a subject that can change something as minute as your mood or something as huge as the entire involvement in a war. Taking pictures has many effects on the world. I hope that now you can realize that too.